The side post represents, again, we have the mezuzah and we have the blood. The mezuzah and the blood. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the blood ratification happened at night. And when we look at that letter there, I should put that down. This letter here in Hebrew is a ket. That's the ket. This represents the defense. It means to guard. It's a place of protection. Protection. And the Father, again, when he's about to redeem Israel from Egypt, instructions were given about the importance of these posts here. The one on this side and the one on that side, and again, blood was put upon it. And the blood represents the life, but we need to know what that mezuzah represents. I'm going to the book of Deuteronomy, the 11th chapter. See if we can clear some of this up, because there's a lot that's going on with this mezuzah.
Does it mean the other side of the covenant?
Excuse me?
So the other side means the covenant?
We have, when the blood is put on the doorpost, that means now that the people that's inside that fenced, because what's happening here now is that everything that enters that opening, because when we look at the ket, this is in Hebrew, this is the ket, there's an opening here. And Israel was given the instructions now not to leave out of the opening. So the blood here represents, as you know, the symbol of life. And this ket represents a fence. And when the death angels flew over, they would see now this blood on the mezuzah what actually protected the people that was inside the house. So this is a covenant. So when you see a person wearing a mezuzah, it represents now that this person understands that they're under a covenant agreement. What I'm trying to share here now is that a lot of us might look at it as just simply trinkets or just ornaments. But every single thing means something. Your fringes mean something. The mezuzah means something. The menorah means something. These are set apart ornaments. Set apart. This is how the Father is actually able to identify you. Meaning this is that something has to distinguish you from other people. That side post, for example, when I went over to Israel, I came, when I got back, I bought some mezuzahs and everything like that. Brought it back home. In every opening in my house, there's a mezuzah. You come to the front door, there's a mezuzah sitting on the right-hand side. You come in from the patio, there's a mezuzah on the right-hand side. The front door, there's a mezuzah on the right-hand side. Into my bedroom, there's a mezuzah on the right-hand side. So anyone that comes across the threshold, you're now coming into a covenant relationship with the people that's inside of the house. I'm trying to get to everything means something. This lets the person know that everyone in this house is following Torah. You understand the covenant. So now if there's a problem or any type of disagreement inside of the house, what should immediately come to mind is that, you know what, there's a certain type of way I must behave, because there's something in the scripture. When I look at my forefathers, it's shared now in scripture now. The only way that that house was protected that the blood of the Mashiyach had to be on the side posts. And the side post in Hebrew, the side word, doorpost, a side post is a Hebrew word, mezuzah. And then we'll talk about later what's actually written inside of the mezuzah. This is the reason why it's called the blood covenant agreement. The only way that Israel was able to survive, the only way that the Father can remember the covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob goes back to Genesis, the 15th chapter that we just read. Without the shedding of blood, there can be no remissions of sins. It has to be a blood covenant. It has to be. So, in your walk of life, is there anything showing on the inside and also the outside? Because the inside should reflect also the outside. Because people are watching. They're watching you. You might have to share with them that you're not a Muslim, but your dress attire and these things, they mean something. People are watching. People can identify you by your speech, by your dress, but I just found it very interesting, this word mezuzah. There should be an outward and an inward reflection of the Father. Watch how this goes. The book of Deuteronomy, the 11th chapter, verse 'So I'm just here to say, when the Ishas give Ishas gifts in the name of Yahuah or Yahuah, it is very, very important that you pay very close attention to what he's doing and what he's giving you. Pay very, very close attention. Watch this, all right? The blood ratification. It happened that night, Deuteronomy 11th chapter, verses 1 through 20. Therefore thou shalt love, and we talked about the word aha, we shall love Yahuah our Elohim and keep his charge. Keep his charge. And his statutes and his judgments and his commandments always. And know you this day that I spoke not with your children, which have not known, and which have not seen the chastisement of Yahuah your Elohim, or Yahuah your husband. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this real personal. We're the bridegroom. Okay, there's the bridegroom and then there's the groom. This is a marriage from Genesis to Revelation. In order to be protected under this covenant agreement that the Father has, this blood must be on the side post. And the side post also represents your heart. It represents your heart. His greatness, his might, his hands. Let me just start verse 2 again. And know this day that I spoke not with your children, which have not known, and which have not seen the chastisement of Yahuah your Elohim. His greatness, his mighty hand, and his stretched out arm, and his miracles, and his acts, which he did in the midst of Egypt, unto Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and to all his land. And what he did unto the army of Egypt, and to their horses, and to their chariots, how he made the water of the reed or the Red Sea to overflow them as they pursued after you, and how Yahuah had destroyed them unto this day. And what he did unto you in the wilderness until you came into this place. We can read down again to verse 20. And what he did unto Dathan and Abram, the sons of Eliab, the sons of Reuben, and how the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up and their households, and their tents, and all the substance that was in their possessions in the midst of all Israel. But your eyes have seen all the great acts of Yahuah, and that's what happens a lot of times. Israel forgets. And we don't like when the Father has to remind us of all the great things that he has done for us. But we are forgetful people, even in our own personal relationships. Sometimes we forget the importance of one another in our relationships. And you have to remind the person of all the great things that you have done for them. We do. We are forgetful people. We forget what the Father has done for us, and sometimes we forget what we do towards one another. And that's not good. It's not good at all. Because again, we are collectively, we are very absent-minded people. We constantly have to tell one another how much we love them and all the great things that we have done for them. Because the adversary is very busy. Verse 7 again. But your eyes have seen all the great acts of Yahuah, which he did. Therefore shall you keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that you may be strong and go in and possess the land, whether you go to possess it, that you may prolong your days in the land which Yahuah swore down unto your fathers to give unto them and to their seed, a land that floweth with milk and honey. Milk and honey. Verse 10, for the land where you go to possess is not as the land of Egypt, from whence you came out, where thou sowest your seed and waters it with the foot as a garden of herbs. Now watch how the Father compares the land of Canaan to Egypt. He says now, but the land whether you go to possess, it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water of the rain of Shamayim, or heaven, a land which Yahuah your Elohim seeth or careth forth. This land that the Father has given to the nation of Yashra'al, it says now, the eyes of Yahuah, thy Elohim, are always upon this land, from the beginning of the year, even unto the end of the year. And it shall come to pass, that's the operative word, if you shall hearken diligently, which means with all your heart, unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love Yahuah your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. So there's two things, with all your heart and with all your soul in the flesh, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thy oil. And I will send grass in thy fields for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves, which is a warning, take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and you turn aside and serve other Elohims and worship them. And then Yahuah's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven, and there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, and lest you perish quickly from off the good land which Yahuah giveth you. Therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign. Bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall teach them your children, speaking of them when thou sittest in thine house, which is one, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thine house. That word doorpost is the word mezuzah. Mezuzah. So again, verse 20, and thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thine house. So, Israel's redemption came about through the blood, okay, and this mezuzah that was on the side post of that fence there, that catch. That was the sign of protection. If that's not in your heart, the adversary, the destroyer, will destroy your house. I'm talking about your literal house that you live in, and your physical house, your being. This is how serious this is. If the blood of the Mashiyach is not on your house, if you're not redeemed, if Yahuah is not the most important thing in your house, the destroyer is going to come and destroy your house. You're going to have problems. You will be, Isha is going to start having problems with the Ishas. and the children. And if the husband, the ish, is not following these laws, statutes, commandments, and if that blood is not on his doorpost, the isha is going to start having problems with her ish and the children. Everybody has to be in one consent while you're living inside of that house there. Everybody. And a sign, a true sign, if there's problems in your house, somebody in that house does not have the blood of the Mashiyach on the doorpost. And the reason why I have to say it like that is because it's either you're following Torah or you're not following Torah. There's no middle ground here. No middle ground. Again, remember, when we were in Egypt, the only way that we were able to get redemption, the instructions that Moses gave Israel, that lamb that was slaughtered, you take that blood and you strike the two side posts and the lintel. So when the adversary or the destroyer comes, he will see that sign on your doorpost, which is your house, and he will go past, or he will go over or pass over your house. If your house is being destroyed, somebody don't have that mezuzah. Somebody doesn't have that blood on their doorpost. That's just what the scripture says. There's going to be problems in paradise. And you know what? If you're having problems now, you haven't seen anything yet. If you're having problems now, you're not going to make it in the wilderness. You're just simply not. Because this is cakewalk now. Cakewalk now. Let's get back to some scriptures, all right? And we'll do the question asking afterwards. Now, I think I actually already answered this. What is the role of the blood and the mezuzah? It protects you from the destroyer. It reminds me, personally me, of the covenant agreement. Deuteronomy 20:5. 20:5. We have, I'm starting at verse 4. For Yahuah your Elohim is he that goeth with you to fight for you against your enemies to save you. I see that happening in the book of Exodus, when the Father fought for the nation of Yashra'al, and he delivered us out of Egypt, but we had to follow the instructions. We must understand the importance of the blood of the Mashiyach. Now, this is going to switch up a little bit, but let's see if we can still see the spiritual applications behind it. It says, and the officers should speak unto the people, saying, when a man is there, what man is there that hath built a new house and hath not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man dedicate it. Now, this is what I found interesting about that there. Can't find my eraser right quick. Can't find the eraser, so let's do this. The word, you see the word dedicated used twice. Dedicated, right? You have the word house. The word for house is what? The bet, the yod, and the tower. Bait, which means house. In order to get inside of the house, you must have an entrance. You must dedicate the house. How do we dedicate the house? 4 minutes. How do we dedicate the house? This is basic, elementary, everybody should know that. How do you dedicate your house? Pray. You pray. It's real easy. Stand in one consent, following Torah is how you dedicate your house. So again, dedicating your house is making sure now is that we understand the redemptive role of the Mashiyach, and the Mashiyach actually died for the nation of Yashra'al. It was the Mashiach's blood that actually redeemed us. So again, you're talking about the side post and the lintel all over again. It's the blood of the Mashiyach, the side post. So every time every single man and woman and child goes into the house, what he's actually doing now is that you're saying as you cross a threshold, everybody knows what a threshold is, right? Just like that little marker, or what you call them things, like it's agriculture, it's a woodwork or housing term. But anyway, when you cross over that, you're now in covenant relationship. There's a love now of the Father inside of the house. So every time you cross the threshold, you're now in covenant relationship. Like for example, I'm pretty sure everybody does this. My mother, she taught me this. The bedroom was a sacred place. Don't go in mommy and daddy's bedroom. You can play in the living room, your own room, but don't go into the bedroom. It's a sacred place. I say that to say now is that when you come into the house of the Father, it's also a sacred place. It's a place where covenant agreements are made. The bedroom is where this is how the family starts. Everything there in that bedroom brings forth a particular type of child or children. You get where I'm coming from here? I'm trying to share that it's a sacred place. So when we come together as a Mishpachah, this is a sacred place where everybody now must recognize now the blood of Yahusha Mashiyach. It must be on the doorpost of your house. And we're not going to get into the Kabbalah, because I'm sure everybody's seen the ket with the whole design of how the man is actually symboled to represent the ket. But we're just going to share here now is that this is now a fence. This is an opening. In order to, I'm going to keep this as clean as possible. In order for there to be an agreement, somebody must go into the house. This is the reason why the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet we see, not the Hebrew alphabet, when we see in Genesis, we see the bet, right? We see the bet. We see the house. That's the bet. What's the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet? Whose house is it?
Father.
It's the Father's house. All right? We're about to shut it down, Mishpachah. But I'm going to need